Hey, everybody, welcome back. Here we are with another episode of The Shift with Gina. Thank you for tuning in. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the nice things. My channel's still pretty new, and it's been really fun to grow with you guys the last several months. And now that we're in 2024, I'm excited to grow a little bit more. So if you are enjoying the episodes, I just ask that you subscribe, maybe share it with a friend. Even if you don't like it, share it with a friend. You can hate share it if you like. That's okay too. Hate sharing is fine. People hate share my content all the time, and that's okay. Any kind of share is good. And so if you're enjoying the show, especially, I would encourage you to click the link in the description and check out my women's group called The Shift. This whole show is brought to you by The Shift. It's an online women's health and wellness community hosted on Mighty Network. So you don't need a Facebook page or any other social media account to join. All you need is an email address. We're always doing some sort of health challenge. We're currently in the middle of our 30-day reset. I think we're on day 8 today. And every day of this month's challenge, we're doing a different daily wellness task. Yesterday, we had to eat 25 grams of fiber. Today, we're doing a 30-minute strength workout. The other day, we wrote down 5 specific detailed goals for the year of 2024. So every day we're doing something a little bit different. And we're also working on bedtime routine, morning routine. I have some great health experts coming in as guests over the next few weeks. During the month, we have a fertility awareness educator coming in. We've got the period guru coming in to talk about menstrual health, your cycle, hormones, all that stuff. So join us. If you're a guy listening, share the link with your girlfriend, with your wife, with your cousin, your mom, whoever. We've got a big variety of demographics of women in the group. So everyone is welcome. You don't need to have any experience with fitness or wellness. You just need to be willing. That being said, let's jump in. We're going to go over a couple of fun videos today that I found on Twitter that are taken from TikTok. The first is from someone named Margarita Nazarenko. I've never seen her before. I just discovered this video on Twitter and I thought it was a really good thing to talk about. She seems to be a relationship expert. She, from what I've seen, she's married and has at least one child. And she talks a lot about femininity, the relationship between men and women. She talks about ways that you can improve your marriage, improve your relationships from a woman's perspective. And there's a lot on her page that I kind of went through that I agree with. And this video in particular kind of gets to the phenomenon of nagging wives. This is quite the topic. Nobody likes a nagging wife, but most husbands have encountered a nagging wife and most wives have been the nagging wife. And this video is titled Rule to a Happy Marriage. So let's listen to what Margarita has to say. And she's got a lovely British accent too, so it's pleasant to listen to. Let's watch this and then I'm going to break it down and give my 2 cents on it.
A rule to a happy marriage and keeping your man or a relationship if you don't want to get married is this, and I don't hear people ever talk about it, so listen. Be happy instead of good. This rule only applies for women. Everyone as a woman has been taught to be a good girl. We want to be good. We want to make him the dinner. We want to do this, that, the other. We want to make him happy because that's how we've been trained and taught to do in society everywhere, school. But the truth is, he would rather you be happy than good. If you're running around flustered, tired, I see all the women in the DMs. I see all the women all over social media. They're talking about, I do this, that, the other. I work 2 jobs. I look after the kids and he just sits on the sofa. Da, 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 da. I'm unhappy, I'm unhappy, I'm unhappy. Okay. How about this? You drop all the good girl act. You drop the pick-me act. You drop trying to fit into whatever it is you're trying to fit into and just be happy. If you don't want to cook that chicken tonight, don't cook it and get a takeaway. Whatever. I don't care. As long as you're happy and he's going to value you more because you're going to give him peace. You're not going to make him go crazy. And we all think, oh, I've got to cook. I've got to clean. I've got to this. That's what I bring to the table. No, my friend. You will see the most, in quotes, useless women be worshipped by men. Why? Because they are happy. They make their lives happy and fun. They're light to be with. They have a playful energy. You know what you become when you are nagging? You're working really hard. You're doing everything for him. You're cooking for him, cleaning for him. You're raising his children. But you are just this angry rat in the corner resenting him like, I'm doing all this for you. You're doing nothing. You're giving mothering energy. You're giving that martyring mother energy who's like, I sacrificed everything for you. I walked over the mountain to bring you to this country, immigrant parent style. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to sleep with that. Cut it out. Just a suggestion.
Cut it out. Just a suggestion. So Margarita, she identifies something that is very real and very true. And I think that she identifies the incorrect source of why this is an issue. And there's something a little bit off about her prescription for what to do with this issue. But overall, there is a lot of really good stuff in here that is going to be good for women to hear and also even good for husbands to hear. First of all, the nagging wife, it has become extremely common, and it is a love killer. It's a love buster. That's a term that even, a lot of like couples therapists will use. It's a love buster to have a wife who nags you as if she is your mother. Mothering energy. She talks about mothering energy in this video very briefly. And in another video, totally separate from this one, she breaks down the difference between mothering and nurturing. Mothering energy is actually quite masculine. When you think about mothering, you have a specific goal. You want to raise your kids a certain way. You see a future that you want your children to go towards. You are directing them towards that future. Mothering energy is kind of inherently masculine. You have to be forceful. You have to be strong. That's why the quintessential matriarch of the family, especially in traditional families where, again, because we talked about this in many different episodes, traditional families is not just mommy, daddy, and kids separated from the rest of the family and living in a white picket fence. No, traditional families is multi-generational. The matriarch of the family was feared by all. My grandma, for example, my Italian grandmother, 5 children, 4 boys. Her first 4 kids were boys. Hockey players, rough playing all the time. There's one story. I think I can't remember if I shared this on Twitter or on my show, but my uncle, he must have been a teenager, probably like older teenager. And he brought home a couple of his buddies just to hang out. And he smart mouthed my grandma. And my mom at the time had already married my dad. My dad was the oldest of 5. So my mom was living in my grandmother's house. Everyone was kind of living under the same roof. And she witnessed this. And she always told me the story that when my uncle he was a bit of a smartass, and he gave this like very disrespectful comment to her to sort of show off in front of his friends, as teenagers tend to do. My grandmother turned to him and she told him that if he ever spoke to her like that again, she would take a broom and she would beat him up. And she ended up chasing him out of the house and down the street with a broom because she was not going to tolerate that kind of disrespect. And my mom said that my uncle never, ever did that again in front of his friends, and neither did any of the brothers. The matriarch of the family is this very strong figure. That's how it's always been. And that's what mothering energy is, right? It's inherently this sort of masculine way to guide the children. That is different than nurturing energy. Right? When you think of a woman's nurturing side, when she nurtures, it comes from a more feminine place. The difference that Margarita shares in a different video, she says, nurturing energy is like this. When you have your friends over and you ask them, can I get you something? Can I get you a glass of water? Can I get you wine, tea? What would you like? If your friend says, I think I'll have some wine. Okay, I'll get you some wine. You want red or white? What do you want? That's more nurturing energy. Mothering energy would be like, I don't think you should have wine because it's only 2:00 in the afternoon. You didn't really drink enough water today. We haven't had any food yet. I think maybe you should have a different choice. Maybe I'll get you some decaffeinated tea. It's going to be better for you and keep you hydrated. That's mothering energy. Now, which of those energies do you think is more attractive to your husband? It's obviously not going to be mothering energy. Just like Margarita says, a man doesn't want to sleep with mothering energy. That's why women, we have to mother our children, but we cannot mother our husband. That is the heart of nagging. When we start to mother our husband, when we start to just nag, these are all the things that you don't do. This is what you should do instead. You got to think about your future. When you do all this, you just cut off all of the love and the sexual energy between you and your husband. And I realize that it's like impossible to never do that, because I think any woman who is married knows that men do need our help. Men, you think you can do it all alone. You don't need women. I think that's part of the whole red pill manosphere thing. You don't need women. Yeah, men need you. Men need us. Men need women, and women, we need men. We need each other. That's how we were created. I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but we need each other. But men do not want the mothering energy from us because it is more masculine. And to raise children, you cannot just be feminine all the time. This is why I take issue with the current trad trend. One of the many reasons I take issue with it, because the word trad essentially means nothing. Someone commented on my last video, they were like, trad is super traditional. It means that dad goes out to work and mom stays home. Is that all you think trad means? Because if that's all that trad means, then anybody could be trad. Anyone could. That's not what traditional is, and it's not even actually rooted in what traditional family is. This is the problem with trad. It has become an aesthetic. It's become a costume. It's become a woman in a sundress who doesn't work and just stays home. I'm trad. I cook and I look cute, and I'm in the kitchen. I'm trad. And they're like, I just have to be in my feminine energy all the time. And then you see a lot of this content online where it's like women say, I can't believe I actually fell for the feminist scam, because being a woman at home is so much easier and so much more cute and feminine than having to go out and work and be masculine all the time. They make wifehood and motherhood sound like this really sweet, easy feminine breeze. I think the moms out there listening would know that when you start to have children, and you see the reality of your babies turning into toddlers, your toddlers turning into older children, and then teenagers, and then you have multiple kids, and you're doing all of this sometimes while pregnant and postpartum. It is not all this really cute, sundressy, flowery, feminine thing. Mothering energy, it needs a little bit of oomph and masculinity in order for it to be successful with your children. Because children need boundaries, they need guidance, they need rules, and they need you to be tough on them. So that's why the mothering and the nurturing energy are different. Now, of course, with your children, you also bring nurturing energy especially if your child is sick or hurt or emotionally struggling. Of course, you bring the nurturing aspect into it. It's not all just mothering. But with the husband, he does not want to be mothered. Now, the issue that I kind of take with Margarita's video is she talks about happy versus good. I don't believe that these two need to be mutually exclusive. And I also disagree with her. She says the reason that women are not happy is because they've been taught to be the good girl. We've been told and programmed to do everything for our husband and sacrifice everything for him, and then make the dinner and do the laundry and clean the house and scrub the bathtub and look pretty and vacuum and do all the things and raise the children while he goes out and he gets to work. And this is because we have to constantly feel it as if we have to be the good girl. I don't think we're taught that in our society. I think that's long gone. I think it's actually quite the opposite. I think that women today culturally are taught to be self-serving, entitled, and not interested in sacrifice. And I think that's actually the reason that women are unhappy and nagging in relationships. It's not because they want to be good and because they want to serve their husbands. It's because they have been taught by culture that they deserve more and that they shouldn't be sacrificing everything for their husband, and they should be getting more from their husband. That's why I think so many women are struggling with being unhappy in a marriage, and they're not satisfied by serving their husbands. So I think that the source of why women are unhappy, I think she gets that wrong. I do not think that all these women who are nagging their husbands are trying to be the good girl. No, they are unhappy inside. Number one, because they think that they deserve more and they're selfish and they think more about themselves. And they don't put Christ first in their marriage. It's sometimes like as the days go by, I don't know how couples make it to like their 50-year anniversary without being Christian. I find it to be very impressive. I don't know how you do it without Jesus. I really don't. Because when you have God in your relationship, everything just it improves. If you are both working towards a relationship with Christ and you're both participating in the sacraments, and this is a life goal for the both of you, you are growing closer together. Not every day is going to be easy, but I think this is one of the reasons why so many couples are also unhappy. So many wives are unhappy because they have no sense of spiritual health. They are approaching everything from a secular perspective, and they're taking all the advice from the secular culture, and it's making them that angry rat in the corner that she said. I actually really like that term because it paints a very accurate picture, doesn't it? When you see that nagging wife, I do this for you, and I raise your children, and I clean the diapers, and I scrub the toilet, and I cook all the food, and I have food ready for you when you get home, and I got to put the kids to bed, and I got to wake up in the middle of the night with them. You're just this angry rat in the corner. And it's that mothering immigrant parent energy. And that woman is not like that because she's trying to be a good girl. She's like that because she's unsettled in her heart. She's unsettled about her marriage, and she doesn't know God. We have been taught to be very entitled. We've been taught to think of ourselves first. Our culture keeps telling us that. Our culture keeps telling us that moms don't think about themselves enough. Everyone thinks about themselves enough. How many times have I said this on the show? You think about yourself too many times during the day. And the answer is not to just drop all the things that you don't want to do so you can be happy. The answer is to be happy, but you're not going to just be happy and truly joyful if you drop all of the responsibilities that need to be done. If I didn't cook every single time I didn't feel like cooking, we would be broke because we would be eating out a lot of times every week. We would be eating out all the time. If I just gave up cooking and cleaning and taking care of my daughter because I wanted to be happy and I wanted to put my feet up during my pregnancy and just, have bonbons served to me, I wanted to be happy so my husband would be happy, nothing would get done. This is why I don't think the solution is quite right. The solution is to be happy, but to be happy, you don't just give up on your responsibilities. It takes a lot of sacrifice and sometimes suffering and responsibilities to be a successful wife and mother. Of course, yes, to be a husband and a father too, but I'm talking more from a woman's perspective, okay? This is not a conversation that suddenly lets men off the hook. So, because you see all of this stuff online where it's men versus women. You can't say anything about women without the women jumping in and being like, well, you're not talking about the men. Men are not perfect. Yeah, no one said men are perfect. And you can't say anything about men without some of the men jumping in and being like, oh, you women are dumb hoes. You don't know how to do housework and be happy for your husband. Like, no one's saying that women are perfect either. It's like impossible today online to talk about either gender honestly without somebody jumping in and claiming that the other gender is wrong. Okay, we're both flawed. We're both wrong. We both get stuff wrong sometimes. Okay, but this conversation right here is talking about the nagging wife. I'm talking about from a woman's perspective. So I don't think that the solution is just to give up your responsibilities just so you can be happy and look cute. I think what we have to do is we have to be able to find joy in the hard work. We have to be able to find joy in the sacrifice. We have to be able to approach these daily mundane tasks with joy in our heart. And the only way that you're going to do that is through God. That's it. Sorry, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are agnostic or atheist or whatever, and sure, they may find joy in the mundane things in life through meditation or whatever it is. But then the long term, what really brings us the long-term joy for the rest of our lives is knowing Christ and knowing that motherhood is an ascetic life. I talked about this a couple episodes ago from an Orthodox perspective. We believe that it is an ascetic life, motherhood. And it is a way for you to find sanctification through your suffering and to find joy and to do all of these things that you have to do every day, all these responsibilities. Yeah, you have to do them. And you're going to have to be able to find happiness and joy in them because you do want to be happy and joyful when your husband gets home. I try my hardest, and it's not like that every single day, but when my husband walks through the door 6:30 p.m., I greet him with a smile. I make sure my daughter greets him with a smile. I try to have dinner ready on the table. My husband works, he's out of the house for long hours, like I'm sure many husbands are out there. Like he leaves at 5 or 5:30 in the morning. He goes to teach jujitsu. And then after he teaches, then he takes the advanced class with the higher belts and they train. And then he showers and then he goes to the office and then he works. So he's out of the house from like 5:30 in the morning until sometimes 6:30. And if he has to work late, if there's a big project they're working on, he's got to stay until 7 or something. So not only do I make sure that he comes home and we're happy to greet him after a long day, but I make sure he's got enough food every day. I have to pack him a huge breakfast, a really big lunch, and a snack. So he has all of his food in a cooler. So when he leaves every morning at 5:30, he doesn't have to be concerned about being fed. Yeah, there's been a day or two where I didn't get to it and he has to buy lunch, but that is an extremely rare occasion. And yeah, that means that sometimes after everything's done, after my daughter is to bed and I clean the kitchen and I got a little bit of work done for myself because I still have a little bit of my own work that I do in my free time, then I have to make sure that his food is packed. And sure, there are nights where I have to stay up later than he does to make sure his food is packed. There are a lot of reasons to hate that. It's not fun all the time, but I really take joy in doing that because I know my husband's fed. And it's those simple things that we can do for our husbands just to know. And like, men are pretty simple, ladies. They really are simple. And I don't say this in a mean way. It's like, I think, I don't know, maybe you disagree with me in the comments, but I think that women have a little bit easier when it comes to pleasing men. You just have to make sure that they're fed and that they're in a peaceful environment. Like, I know my husband just wants peace. And it's something that he's like explicitly said before. He's like, I just want peace in my life. And I think every man just wants peace. You just give him good food, you be joyful, and you create a peaceful environment for your husband. Now, this is not saying that your husband should never be involved in the home life or your family life or caring for your children. Like a lot of times my husband comes home, he hasn't seen our daughter all day. He puts her to bed because he wants to spend a little time with her. He wants to read her a book. I get to clean the kitchen a little bit while he puts her to bed. Like, of course, the husband should be involved with the family. My husband, every chance he gets, he helps, especially, on the weekends. He'll like change her diapers and like give her a bath sometimes and things like that. So this isn't saying that men should be absent from the family life, but I think we need to do our absolute best, just like this woman Margarita says, to be happy for your husband because your husband does want to see you happy. That is more important to him than anything else. It's more important for you to be happy and joyful, especially in the times where things are really tough. Maybe somebody got laid off, you're struggling financially. We've been in that situation before. Last year was a really hard year for us. And I was not successful all the time at being that happy, joyful person because I can be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but it's something that we have to work on as wives because I really think that in the home, whatever the mood is, whatever energy there is in the home, I think it mostly comes from the woman. I really think that. I think that the woman dictates the energy and the mood of the house more than anybody else. And it doesn't matter if the woman works out of the home or not. You could even have a home of like a stay-at-home dad and the mom works out of the house. Still, energy, mood dictated by the woman. That's just how it is. Men are pretty steady. They're grounded. That's the yin and the yang, right? Is that women, even hormonally, we are not the same every day. Men, same. Every 24 hours, the same. They're the same at 8 o'clock every single morning, the same at 8 o'clock every single night hormonally. It's just how it is. So we are different emotionally and hormonally every day. So we are going to be the ones to dictate what the environment is like at home. And I believe that even in the most difficult of times, even when things feel extremely hard, to be thankful and grateful and to be happy, I think those are the times especially where we as women, it's our responsibility to make sure that the environment is peaceful. And I think peaceful/happy is exactly what the husband wants, just like she said, because your husband does not want to sleep with mothering. Your husband does not want to sleep with nagging. And if you continuously nag all the time, he's going to start looking for femininity and love elsewhere. Not that he's right in doing that, but it's very, very common. We know somebody right now. Let's just put it this way. We know someone right now whose wife has been very volatile for many years. They have multiple children that are young, all under the age of 10. And it's just been a very tumultuous marriage for the last several years. They've been sleeping in separate bedrooms for a long time. and there's just nothing left between the two of them. And that husband has started to look elsewhere. And it's a terrible situation all around, but it's just what happens. Now, I'm not saying that this is like it's a free pass for a husband to just go and cheat on his wife, but you will start to understand why men start to look elsewhere, because they really do want a woman with a playful spirit. They want a woman who's joyful and brings peace. Now, what she says here in the video, she says, think about all the useless women that men worship, they love. Useless women as in, you can probably refer to like models or influencers. That's me. I'm not saying that models are useless, but let's just say like the vapid, shallow women who are just really into the way that they look, and they don't know how to cook, and they don't know how to run a home or raise children. Men are enamored with these women. They'll do anything for these women. They'll buy these women nice things. They're kind of obsessed with them. But what she gets wrong here is that those useless women are not the women that men really want to end up with for the rest of their lives. They're fun to like play with. They're fun to buy things for. They're fun to sleep with and date. But those are not the type of women that men are really going to want to settle down with, because can you trust those women to raise children? Well, most of the time, probably not. But as women, we don't really have to be that physically beautiful to attract and land a man. It's really more about the energy that you give. It's really more about the joy and the peace that you bring to men. And really all men want at the end of the day is someone to come home to and feel like they're taken care of, and someone to love. And you're not really going to find that if the woman is constantly mothering you. It's that nagging, mothering energy. So don't be that angry rat in the corner, ladies. I know it's easier said than done. I know it is easier said than done, but I think it's one of those things. I shared a quote from, I forgot which saint it was. Maybe it was Saint Ephraim Paisos. I forgot. But he was saying that motherhood being a sacrifice, it's really like a ministry, and we have to approach it that way. And when you do approach it that way, you understand that all of these daily sacrifices and the mundane tasks that we have to do over and over again, they are a way to lay down our life for our family. We do have to lay down our life, especially in the early years when your kids are young. And the kids aren't old enough to like help you around the house and do chores and stuff, because when the kids are older, you can just put them to work. But when they're younger, it really does feel like as women, we have to lay down our life, and we kind of do. That's why I think we need to prepare women better for motherhood. I don't think this whole trad trend of pretty sundresses and you get to be cute and feminine at home all the time, and it's so much better than working a 9-to-5 job, girls, let me tell you. I don't think that's the right way to prepare young women. I don't. Because real motherhood, real wifehood is different than that. You have to work hard. Women have always worked hard in the role of mothers. Actually, until pretty recently in human history, women have always worked in general while also being expected to raise children. It was very unheard of for a woman to not contribute financially to the family. In fact, if a woman did not contribute financially to the family, she was not even considered for marriage, or she was considered a useless or a failed wife. Because before the Industrial Revolution, like you think about the family unit, like you had to survive. Women had to get up early to work the farm and work the land and take care of the animals and create goods to sell for profit. Like women have always worked hard. So this new modern trend of like feminine housewife, you get to like take a nap whenever you want. Like I can't see how many tweets I see from women who are like, I just had my first baby, guys. And let me tell you, it's so much easier than 9-to-5 job because you can just nap whenever the baby naps. I'm like, yeah, you can do that for the first like 6 to 8 months of the baby's life. But what about when you have 2 kids, 3 kids, or you're pregnant with kids, like, and your kids get older and they're not napping anymore? Like, that's not what real motherhood is like. We have to prepare women for the real thing. We have to prepare women to work hard, to enjoy the sacrifice of working hard, and realize that for a few years, in the early years of your children's lives, you are going to have to give up some of the things that you love. You are going to have to sacrifice, and that's okay. You're not going to have to sacrifice them forever. You're not going to have to sacrifice everything. But you are going to have to give up some stuff. I had to give up some stuff that I love. I know people think I'm crazy. I love to train. If I could, my dream job would just be to train for multiple hours a day. I love it. I love working out. I love it. I would be doing handstand sessions every day for 2 hours a day if I had the time. But obviously I can't do that now. And that's okay. When my kids get older, yeah, I'll be able to go back to do some of the things I really like. But I find little times during the day to maintain some kind of workout routine, to maintain some of the hobbies that I like when I can, but we have to prepare women for the reality of motherhood. And that is a lot of times you have to sacrifice things that you love, and that's okay. It is hard work. Being a mom is not some flowery costume that you get to put on and look cute for Instagram. It's not. And I think we need to be a little more honest with young women about what motherhood is, so we don't end up with more nagging wives. Okay, this video is of a mother feeding her child food. Well, we're going to just say food as a placeholder. Let's watch this video. Obviously, this country is struggling with an epidemic of obesity. Almost half of Americans are obese. 70% are overweight. 6 out of every 10 Americans live with a chronic illness. 4 out of every 10 live with 2 or more chronic illnesses. And you see a lot of these videos like what I eat in a day. And this particular video is a mom showing everything she fed to her daughter in a day. So let's take a look.
This is everything that we fed baby girl for the day today. For breakfast, I just gave her the last 2 leftover breakfast corn dogs that we had. And for lunch, me and her daddy ate some leftover spaghetti with some Texas toast. But she was hooping and hollering she only wanted butter noodles. So I just gave her some noodles without the sauce pack and, of course, her circle bottle. A few hours later, rightfully so, she was hungry again. And she asked me, could I make her a little pancake that looked like one of the mini donuts she made last night. And it just made me think of that whole little big back situation where it was like, you want to put the lasagna on the garlic bread? You want to let's do it? So I honestly just started cracking up laughing. I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and make it for her. Just a fun little snack, a treat that every little child dream of. So I just made her a little pancake with some little Teddy Grahams on top and some little sprinkles and pink icing. And of course with her circle bottle, and she chewed every last bit of it up. For dinner, she actually decided to cook the meal herself. So I'm going to post that video for y'all in a minute, of course, with her circle bottle. And then for her little dessert, I just gave her some sugar-free Cool Whip with some little cookies to dip in it with her circle bottle.
I'm not laughing at the food per se. I'm just laughing because like Black women are just so funny. She was hungry again. She was hooping and hollering. I grew up in South Georgia, like right outside Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia is I think like 55% Black. Let me see. Savannah, Georgia demographics. Racial makeup of Savannah is 51% Black. So it's like more Black people than white. It's just so funny to me. I just think Black people are so funny. Like I just grew up with a lot of Black people, like the small town I grew up in, the Black churches everywhere. A lot of my teachers were Black. I just like half of my school was Black. I just think they're so funny. She was hungry again. And like a lot of the people that I grew up with talk like this mom. So someone shared this video on Twitter and said, this is straight up child neglect. Corn dogs for breakfast, the plain instant noodles, not a single vegetable or fruit in sight. I feel so bad for this kid. I also feel really bad for this kid. And I will say this, the old me would have also called this child neglect. The old me would have called this child abuse. And there is still a part of me that wants to call this child abuse. But like I said in my last episode, one of my New Year's resolutions as I'm trying to approach everything with a more compassionate point of view. I really am. And I don't mean fake compassion, like the kind of compassion that the left uses. I mean true compassion. This mom is not neglecting her child. She's not abusing her child. She is just incredibly unaware of how toxic these foods are. And I think that calling this child abuse and child neglect is not going to help the situation. I don't think it's going to help change people's minds. I don't think it's going to change anything. I think it's just kind of yelling into the abyss. And I think it kind of falls into the category of outrage content. This is really bad. That is like the absolute worst diet you can feed your kids. I don't think I saw any real food in sight there. Frozen corn dogs for breakfast and then just like the ramen noodles. I think she thought it was a big win to give her daughter the plastic bottle of water. And like the little pancake that she made her with like the food coloring icing and the Teddy Graham crackers on top. You know, she's you can tell she's like loves her daughter and she's like trying to make life fun and exciting for her. And, you know, you also have to kind of realize that a lot of these lower income communities, like when they have enough money to eat, that in and of itself is a really big win. Like, so for example, my husband grew up in Brazil, and he did not grow up very privileged, I guess is the term to use. And there were a lot of times where they didn't have enough food to eat. Like the only thing they had to eat was just some beans and rice. And my husband said when he got to America, he could not believe the amount of snacks available in the grocery store. He used to just like walk through the aisles and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many different kinds of chips. Look at all of these cookies. And I hear it a lot from immigrant families too. When they first get to the United States, they see all of this junk food and they think it's like a sign of wealth to be able to buy these different types of chips and cookies and Cool Whip, graham crackers and all this stuff, and feed your kids because it's like a sign that you have accomplished something. You've won. You've made it to the promised land. And it's even families like this one that are not immigrants. They, I don't know what economic demographic this family is, but we can probably take an educated guess. These parents they just want to feed their kids, and they really think that like getting these cool, fun, colorful foods is like a win in and of itself because they can afford to do it. And I just feel really bad for these families because they don't know the difference. And I think we have to do a much better job at educating these people rather than like just making fun of them online. It's actually not funny. I laugh about it because the mom is kind of funny, but it's not funny at all. It's really, really sad to see parents feeding their kids like this. But I think we have to be honest and give a little bit of grace because these people don't know any difference. They don't know any they don't know that they're feeding their kids poison. So what is the solution? I don't know. I know education is a really big part of this, but then again, there are a lot of studies. I'm sure you guys have heard some of this research in the past 10 years, maybe even 20 years of researchers giving low income communities healthy food. They like give them healthy food to eat. They put healthy food in the grocery stores. They either give it to them for free or they make it really affordable. And these families still don't eat healthy. They still just feed their kids all of the processed stuff, all of the ultra processed stuff. So I don't think it's an issue of availability and accessibility, because that's something that a lot of people will say. They'll be like, well, it's not their fault to eat like this. This is all they have access to. A lot of studies have shown that even when they have access to the right food, they don't choose it. They keep going back to the ultra processed stuff. Firstly, because their body is addicted to it. And this is something that I think a lot of us who live very healthy lives, that food looks gross to us. Like I don't even think in my most pregnant stages, I could eat that corn dog. It just makes me feel ill to my stomach because I've trained my body for many, many years to not want food like that. But you have to realize that all these chemicals and the seed oils, they are designed to make you addicted, chemically addicted to these foods. So it's an addiction. So a lot of these families, not only do they not know better, but they're physically addicted to these foods. So if they are presented with healthier options, they're not going to go for it because this is the food that they know and love. And this is the food that their body craves. So that is a factor that we have to really consider, is that these families are really addicted to these foods. So I think even more than accessibility, I think the problem is education, and we're not doing anything to really help these families know better. And big food. The food industry is so predatory. There are so many ingredients in these foods that are addicting and that are incredibly toxic that are not even allowed to be put in food in the EU, for example. Even some ingredients in benign foods like oatmeal. I forgot who shared this recently, but they were comparing American foods to European foods. The same thing, Doritos in America and in Europe. Oatmeal, like the oatmeal packets here and there. What else? Things like cereal, like a Frosted Flakes in the US compared to a Frosted Flakes in the EU. They're just really different ingredients. They have a lot more toxins and chemicals and food dyes here in the United States that they're not even allowed to put in food in Europe. And so big food is predatory, and that's how they get these people to constantly eat their foods over and over again, because it's addicting chemically. and then they're just metabolically wrecked. So maybe I'm being too nice. Maybe, like I said, motherhood has softened me, but I don't think this is child neglect or child abuse. I don't think that's appropriate to call it that. I think that it's just a many severe mistakes made in a row, but with good intention. Like, I don't think that it's fair to say this woman abuses her child, even though it may seem like that to those of us who know better, but I just don't think that they have any information to tell them otherwise. And I think that's the problem. And that makes me sad. The poor girl, she's so overweight already. How old does she look to you? She looks probably like 10 or 11. And you can tell she's got like the cartoons on in the background, and it's just sad. It makes me really sad. So feed your kids good food, guys. Don't feed them the crap from an early age, because if you feed them the crap from an early age, that's all they're going to want. My daughter, for the first time in her life, had a fruit pouch. You know, those fruit purees that come in the pouches that parents love to give to kids when they're like 6 months old and up. My daughter just turned 2, and she just had one for the first time a couple weeks ago, and her eyes were like, oh my gosh. She was like, what is this? She never had it before, because I never bought any pureed foods or anything. First of all, because it's a lot cheaper to make it at home. And second of all, because it's just one ingredient when you make it at home, much healthier, and doesn't come in plastic. But when you feed your kids good food from an early age, that's what they're going to crave. That's what they're going to want. So feed your kid healthy food, please, for all our sakes. And don't nag your husbands, ladies. Don't do that. Don't mother your husbands. Nurture your husbands. Nurture him. Oh, one little piece of advice that Margarita gave. I kind of binged on her videos last night. I kind of like her, even though I'm sure there are probably a lot of things politically and culturally we would disagree on, but I kind of like her. She said in one video, if you want your husband to do something, the solution is not to constantly tell him, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Why don't you? Da, 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 da. For example, like if he's constantly late to something, don't be like, why are you always late? Don't be late. You're late again. Da, 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 and like nag him and scold him. She says, if you really want your husband to change a certain behavior, put it this way instead. We need to be there at 10. I know you'll be on time because it's really important to me. Thank you for being on time because I know it's really important to me. This sort of like positive reinforcement thing, right? It can be very tiring and exhausting, but there are different ways to get your husband to do things for you than just to nag at him all the time. Easier said than done, right? Because my husband is late to a lot of stuff. I kind of gave up. Getting him to be on time. But what I have done is like, I tell him that we have to leave 30 minutes earlier than we have to leave. No. Yeah. So if we have to leave the house at like 9:30 to go to church or something, I'll be like, we got to leave at 9. So we all make a decision to leave at 9 together. And then we're out of the house at like 9:25. So success. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'll try to find some fun videos to cover next, but have a great day. See you later. Bye.